Welcome back to the session. Now we are going to talk about the other two aspects. The first one is the language in qualitative research. The other one is documents as a source of data. The first one we will take, I hope you can see the screen. I've already shared it. The answer, is it seen properly? Hello?
Yes, we can see it.
Um, Language in qualitative research. So irrespective of research or any other thing, as an ordinary person, so you must have a good idea about the importance of a language, uniqueness of a language. Mm, Language that helps improve the communication to great extent. Um, as a result, mankind has developed so many languages, development, evolution of languages, linguistics, and there are so many things in the world. So now it has gone up to a level called machine language. So before understanding the relevance of language in qualitative research, in general, you should have general idea about the importance of linguistics or language in general for your day-to-day life. So otherwise, because it's something like a double-edged sword. Mm. You know it, how powerful the language is, the communication and all these things. So what is the extent to which it is used in a qualitative research? As you know, qualitative research also goes to the research field with a very open mind, to explore something, why and how questions. So therefore, language in qualitative research can do lots of things, unlike in the case of quantitative research. Um, then that's why it says that knowing how words are used and the meaning of specific terms in the local vernacular, or sometimes we call argot, is so that has become the major, the path of using languages for different meaning. Because you, if you are unaware of the specific meaning of this the term or the language, it would be really dangerous. That is why it is crucial to an appreciation of how the social well-being studied is viewed by the members. Like, so if you take the entire society, world, it's a collection of knowledge. Actually, knowledge is being accumulated in the society. To great extent is through language. Language helps for this particular purpose. For qualitative research purpose, we focus on two areas. One is conversation analysis, CA, and discourse analysis. Conversation analysis and discourse analysis. What are they? Conversation, so as the word suggests, it is between two or maybe group, like individuals. Conversations, I talk to you, you talk to me. Conversation between two, so respondents and the interviewer and interviewee, something like. So analysis of talk as it occurs, interaction in naturally occurring situation. um, some, no matter so what the form of it, but the conversation takes place in that way. So therefore, talk, the conversation analysis, usually recorded and transcribed. So if you go and talk to an employee or manager of an organization about its internal control system or budgetary system, or maybe the responsibilities assigned to them, you may keep on talking. um, all the things cannot be remembered. Sometime while talking, you may note it down, jot down what you discuss or what the responses are. That is also one way, but less effective. Why? If you start noting down, recording, just jotting down, you may lose the focus of the conversation, talk. So therefore, the best way of getting a best out of the conversation is to record. But again, you need to follow ethical rules, grounds, and all these things. But in Sri Lankan context, these ethical clearances, I mean, ethical aspects are not that much concerned. But whenever you go for these conversations or recording purposes, always you need to iterates emphasize that, so that is being used for this thing, and these ethical aspects should be mentioned. If you need we it's better to get kind of authenticity or approval from the department as well if it is needed. So mainly it is recorded, and the transcribing is the difficult task. So you need to transcribe it to a source of data, because recording includes everything. What is going to be analyzed is not the one recorded, it has to be transcribed into in a manner or way that you want, or maybe into sometimes a different language. So if the research, once it is transcribed, you sometimes you may have to translate, even because interviews may be carried out in Sinhala. Then if the research is been like in English, so you have to bring it back to English as well. So transcribing, that is rewriting, rearranging for your analysis purposes. These analyses are concerned with uncovering and underlying structures of talk in interaction, as such with the achievement of other or in achievement of order through interaction. So simply speaking, in the conversation, it happens in a gross manner, very open manner. What it really contains, so you are trying to dig out the realities. Again, reality is also a question in qualitative research, what is meant by reality. But whatever is the relative reality we are going to dig out, then you need to uncover through this conversation analysis. And basic assumptions of conversation analysis: a speech is seen as action that does something. But you know, sometimes there may be mismatch between action and the words or the conversation. But we assume that if you say something, that is there in action as well, not only in spirit, but also in action as well. Because otherwise, because you conclude action, if they say that, so they do, they engage in CSR in this way, stakeholder engagement, that and this. These are the wordings. So we assume that, so these things happen. These things happen. But whether it happens or not can be later on question. But I am saying that it is not the conclusion. So if someone says that, so I do that and this, so you are not going to believe in that. But basic assumption is that it happens. That is why you analyze, okay, the conversation reveals this. But if you find something contrary to that, so that is something else later on. I hope it is clear to you. Assumptions may not be held good for always. Focus is on the here and now context of talk. So avoid making extraneous inferences, because you need to take into account then and there, and the additional influences or outside influences, interferences should not be there at the time of transcribing or doing the basic analysis. So we believe that it is a genuine idea coming from the interviewee. It is, so you know, sometimes when you look at, when you see the political events, scenes, and all those things, some professionals, intellectuals, they say something, but by the time you hear what they say, it is pretty clear that they have predetermined to say this thing. Sometimes they may have been influenced. Okay, you go and say this thing. Some people are a little bit afraid of doing this thing because the professionals are a little bit reluctant to do so. But you can see from their gestures even. So that is not the conversation. I mean, we that could be analyzed in a different way. But we are saying that in a conversation, we believe that it is not extraneous inferences is not taking place. We need to avoid it. Therefore, talk is structured by tacit rules. So this is what I explained. Talk is forged contextually. That means same talk at different times may give two different reasons. So that's why you got to be, because when it comes to political arena, you see these things are used by opponents to even for mudslinging or any other thing. Because if I say something today, that may not be valid for tomorrow, right? About some policy matters, importation, so likewise. So therefore, so like the words or the conversations, expressions of ideas has to be analyzed by referring to its context. That's very important. Analysis is grounded in data. So finally, you carry out your analysis based on what is discussed. That is the real data. Specific details of conversational interaction cannot be ignored. So therefore, the nature of the interaction, topic that you talk about, context also should be taken into account. And some basic tools for conversational analysis, national symbols, sometimes, so these are not necessarily used. And so when you record or maintain or transcribe these things, in the past, actually, when we did not have that much, how to say, uh, computer involvement, we happen to use some symbols and marks, acronyms, and all those things. So these, some of these things are common things. But if you want, of course, you can use some symbols for analysis purposes. Turn taking means like at a time you discuss, so take into account one aspect, and again question and answer session likewise. So then analysis, you may not do all the answers given to all the questions, but then and there one question on answer, something like. So taking turn, it depends on the nature of the question that you ask. Adjacency pairs question, so it links to this the taking turn, question and answers, invitation and responses likewise. Always pairs are there, and your analysis does not go alone with one dimension. And the preference organization, sometimes one response preferred to the other organization. So that would be possible, maybe with respect to national statistics, right? National statistics, GDP of the country, or maybe the contribution. Several institutions involved. Who are they? Central Bank, Minister of Finance, and Department of Census and Statistics. Who should you rely? It's a big question. It's a big question. So final authority, the authority to release the data, or either central bank official. So therefore, whenever you go to interview or discussion or conversation with these people, so they have the authority. So they release it to the general public in the form of annual report. But who captures it? Who captures that is captured by the Department of Census and Statistics. So therefore, you need to choose some. If there are any discrepancies, sometimes we have seen discrepancies. One ministry, one department says one something, another department says something else. Therefore, you need to prioritize, not arbitrarily, but with the kind of justification. Dispreferred response has to be justified. Sometimes, in a conversation, um, like pertaining to your question, some answers were given, but they may not be aligned according, to your objectives. But so that kind of answer is called dispreferred one. But if you are going to reject, remove it, you need to justify. You need to give a reason why. And justifies action by reference to common values. And you have to justify by referring to common values, saying that, okay, maybe the discussion with respect to internal control systems. So our main idea is to make sure that collusion does not take place, and make sure that the value of the wealth of the corporation is um, maximize, and the internal controls we refer to a fact that managers may not abuse power, something like. So these things have to be first justified. Then the repair mechanism, responses to unexpected speech acts. So how are you going to respond to unexpected speeches? Because you may ask something, they may explain something unnecessarily or excessively or totally irrelevant thing. Then you need to bring it back to this. So these kind of tools have to be used um, knowingly. Okay, before moving to the discourse analysis. So the analysis, we want to add something on this conversation, importance of conversation, because sometimes you can highlight the different versions of the terminology used, and rhetoric used, regional differences, something like, if any, or relevant for our students. Hello, hello. Okay,
Yes, you can continue, no problem.
okay. So now the second part of analysis, that is discourse analysis, that has to be very carefully understood. What is meant by discourse? So conversation is easy to understand. So conversation taking place between two or three or whatever. So discourse is something um, where a common topic is heavily discussed by experts in that group or maybe different group. That is what we call discourse. Hmm? For example, public discourse. So nowadays we can talk about like democracy. So then if I ask a question from maybe graduates about democracy, so that is a conversation. So you give me an answer as you learn definition, meaning. But public discourse or discourse of democracy cannot be belittle to this conversation. Therefore, you need to take information from sometimes documents, interview, so some debates and some general topics being telecast or broadcast via television or radio. So it should be common, maybe political, the parliament. So that is what we call a discourse. Discourse is constitute of the social world. So finally, the world in which you live is really influenced, and many things are constructed through discourses. So discourse may go in that way or this way. So even though you like it that way or this way, discourses may be in its own way. In Sri Lankan context, it is easy to understand the socio-political environment through social discourses about racism, about even today's the present situation of the country, the present GDP issue, debt crisis, how it is interpreted. So whether there are any discourses, sometimes discourses may be very confined to minor matters, not that much open. Hmm? So if you want to do a social research, you can take up what are the discourses among intellectual, discourses among politicians, discourses among academics about academic matters. Do we talk about? Even you can have your discourses. In electronic modes, these discourses can be seen in blogs. So bloggers, right? You know this. If you are a blogger, in blog, like the blog is a very good example that takes place in technological platform for discourses. This anti-realist epistemology is another way of developing discourses. What is anti-realist epistemology? It's basically the opposite side of the realism. What is real? What is reality? Again, there are arguments. Some argue that there is nothing called real because everything is subjective or relative. Therefore, relative reality. So, what is freedom? what is profit and what is meant by this, no? What is a cooperation. Mm. So you can take any other issue, social issues. What is meant by love? What is meant by life? So is there any reality with this? Sometimes some well-established ideas would be there. Then that is taken as a reality. For example, say what is beauty? What is beautiful? How do you define it? What is the reality about beautiful? You might say, oh, okay, beautiful girl or handsome guy. So what is beauty? It's a bit debatable, but you can explain this anti-realist epistemology from beauty. If you ask this particular question from your batchmates, 100 students, what do you mean by beauty? So what do you expect? What are the elements that you see in beauty? It depends. So totally different answers may be given. Sometimes you may see common answers. So that is why in anti-realism, epistemological aspects, we can say that beauty depends on the eyes of beholder. There are no any objective yardstick to measure it. It deals with your interpretation, your emotions, your reaction, the way you look at the things. So that is the anti-realistic epistemology. So in discourse analysis, this really matters because the discourses, what I talk, for example, if I talk about freedom, if I talk about democracy, of course, I explain, I perceive it from the knowledge that I have about democracy, from the political ideology that I have in my mind, and the information that I have gathered. So lots of things may be outside of my uh, purview or analysis. Therefore, I can't talk about the rest. But I talk about democracy based on my knowledge, my experience, my political ideology, social identity. Likewise, so many things are there. So that has to be taken into account when we go ahead with the discourse analysis. Why we are emphasizing on discourse analysis is that this discourse analysis is pretty much important for qualitative research. So if you are not conversant of analyzing the discourses by using particular theory or tools, you will not be able to achieve the objectives. On the other hand, if you can have very good tools of analyzing discourses, of course, you can do a pretty good qualitative research within a short period of time, and the finding also would be interesting. Again, the construction is ontology. So
Can I disturb a little bit, Anish?
yes, yes, please.
Uh, when you uh, look at this chapter, uh, conversation analysis and discourse analysis, we talk about analyzing, conversations, not the documents, the interview-based data we are trying to now analyze under these two chapters. So here what we do is when you do interviews and the language, we do three things. One is we have to read, then compare and interpret. So all the conversations, all the interviews, we need to transcribe. Once you transcribe, you have a document. So that document, that documents you need to keep continuously read. If you could read it again, we will tell that the logic is that until you realize you have to read the all the transcribed documents. So thereby, what I want to communicate you is that this conversation and discourse analysis is applicable to the reading stage. So when you read this conversation analysis is of course a little bit narrow. There you look at the conversation itself, maybe certain characteristic of the conversations, stop points, the conjunctions. That means negative opinion when positive opinion is given. So what are the negative opinions? Those points are very important when you are transcribing the interviews. Silence, maybe you may just by expressing a few idea, you just think further. That step also, that point is also important under conversation analysis. With regard to the discourse analysis, we analyze in the discourse. Discourse analysis is little broader than the conversation analysis. We are going to bring social, cultural, economical, political aspects when reading the transcribed documents. As Dr. Anil explained very clearly, discourse really example for discourse when you take accounting, maybe integrated reporting, balance scorecard, activity-based costing, budgeting. All these are discourses. When you analyze the discourse, we believe that all this each discourse is linked with political aspects, cultural aspects, social aspects, economic aspects. So thereby, whatever the conversations you are trying to read, we will look at from holistic way. You read not in a narrow way, you read in a broader way. Suppose if you a classic example now. Uh, uh, Suppose you are just going to interview. I'll take one example from Rami's story. The Rami's Inland Revenue IT system. So there were 3-4 groups: union, those who support IT, core teams, etc. When interview this, say one, if I am interviewing one person from core team means the key people who implement and design the particular system. So they may talk in a different way, different style. And if you talk to a union guy, union man may really talk in a different way, but there may be similarities among these two groups also. So both are really encouraging, both are really interesting, both really willing to have IT system. But even though they both prefer to have IT system, their ideas, their opinions are, opinions may be different from political angle and the social and the economic point of view. So thereby discourse analysis is little bit further. That's why we talk about anti-realism or the anti-realist. The realism means really it's related to epistemology. Epistemology means how do you know. That is epistemology is related to the knowledge. When you take realism is really we assume that the reality is outside the person who observe. So thereby, suppose you are the researcher, you believe that reality is independent from you. That is the meaning of realism. And also we assume that what we know is there. So thereby, in quantitative research, that's why we design a questionnaire and get the answer. Survey questionnaire. What we know is there, and we can find out it. We can get it very easily. That is the meaning of realism. So anti-realism is little bit different. Anti-realism is that when you interpret any object, so it's your mind. It's a matter of mind, how you see. So thereby, so the reality is constructed in your mind when you say anti-realism. So thereby, to construct any new meaning, uh, when you observe any object discourse, that discourse has to be looked at from different perspective. Then only you can construct the meaning, or then only you can develop interpretation. So thereby, when you look at the discourse analysis, we focus on anti-realist epistemology approach, meaning that we don't accept what is generally accepted. Now we know that by introducing balanced class system, the normal rule is what is known is that you can improve the performance. By activity-based costing, you can improve the cost. By introducing budgeting, you can allocate resources in a reasonable. Those are the general accepted knowledge. But when it comes to qualitative research, for example, anti-realism assumption, we don't believe on those things. We are looking at a new thing. We are going to construct a new new theory, new method, new way of looking at that. That's the meaning of constructionist ontology. So being ontology means being existence. So we are just trying to find out, we are just trying to create a new way of looking at a discourse. So I think that's what I just want to highlight. So thereby discourse analysis is not just reading a document. Discourse analysis is you are looking at the interview in a broader context to create new knowledge. Anil, I think that's what I just want to communicate.
Yeah, that's really good. Like actually, so these two area, epistemology, ontology, and these discourses, especially in this qualitative research, these terms are very important. And I will emphasize that is what Danas just tried to explain you in detail. Sometimes our understanding should not be limited to simple definition about epistemology and ontology. You have to understand by yourself, you perceive it by yourself, then only you would be able to carry out a very good qualitative research. Lots of things in, so always refer it to our context. So as Dan has mentioned, IR, budgeting, and all those things, in a way, they are the constructed ontologies. So that's there. There is something called IR reporting. That is an ontology. Then you can understand in a different perspective rather than just defining it. What is ontology? IR is an ontology. So why it happens, how it happens, so you and I may understand it differently. You got it? So that is the epistemology. So anti-realism would be there. Even that constructed IR, integrated reporting, is there. So the reality could be question, but the way you and I and the answer understand would be totally different from each other. That is the epistemology. So recently, okay, you can relate it to examples. So couple of, yes, maybe last week, you must have heard and seen the video about this NASA mission journey to Mars, right? And so they celebrated it. They were able to send this the craft, the spacecraft to Mars and landed it on the surface. So that is an ontology, right? It has gone there, unless it has been fabricated. So there are some, um, when it comes to politics, many things can happen, but it looks like, so something has happened and the craft has just landed somewhere on the surface. That is an ontology, constructed ontology. Hmm? So behind that, so many stories are there. But when it comes to epistemological understanding, those who are like you, I, and Diana, so we do not have that much knowledge about these aerospaces, NASA, and these crafts. All those things we do not have much knowledge. Therefore, we simply understand it only from these pictures. Okay, this craft goes and just released from the main device and goes and lands with several wheels, and then they do some experiments. Again, experiments, we may think our experience about experiments, actually what is happening there would be highly complex and we do not know, and would be many things. So that is epistemology, where we understand. So simply speaking, on, so why I just emphasize this thing, we have come across, when you carry out researches, sometimes you may have some confusion between these two terms. So if there are no confusion, that is really good for you to analyze these courses, because as Darren sir mentioned, this discourse analysis is going to play a very important role for you if you do a qualitative research. Then the basic discourse analytical questions. So these things are discussed by the answer. What is this discourse doing? How is this discourse constructed to make this happen? And what resources are available to perform this particular activity? This is Porter 2004 highlighted these three basic aspects. And for elements in discourse analysis, it is important to have a particular topic. This topic deals with the ontology, not just a resource. And language is constructive. What is meant by constructive? Because this through interpretations, the argument, and general agreements, and finally things will be constructed. So for example, IR reporting is constructive. It did not evolve over time. You know that reporting matters. So financial reporting, CSR reporting, sustainability reporting may have evolved, and lots of things are there in the reporting. Finally, there was a dialogue, discourse was there to bring them into one platform through a business model. So that was constructed by the players, those who influence and have connection with the reporting. So for this purpose, they use particular languages. So those languages, words, linguistics, rhetorics are different from other places. So therefore, finally, it is constructed. And the discourse is a form of action. Finally, discourse should lead to action. So then discourse is there about the IR, importance of IR, or maybe budgeting, or maybe nowadays we talk about integration with technology. Lots of discourses are there. So everyone talks about either knowingly or unknowingly. To be successful, you need to deal with, or you need to incorporate or integrate with technology. Right? That's a discourse. Therefore, technology has become a discourse. Use of technology in business operation, e-businesses or whatever. It becomes an action in that way or some or other ways. May not be perfect. So therefore, discourse is a form of action. So actions are there. These actions are reflected in discourses. That is why if something called technology taking place in business operation, then we talk about technology, or maybe 4G, the fourth generation technology. So that is how technology comes in. Without having something in action, discourses may not be there. Rhetorically organized. So the rhetorics are, so you can search in detail later on. Why it is called rhetorically organized? There are certain patterns, certain terminologies, certain words, terminologies are used in discourses. When we talk about discourses about integrated reporting, discourses about IT, discourses about democracy, it is not the same language. Different language is used. So rhetorically means basically you use particular language to decorate your conversation, your discourses. So especially when we talk about research, then we talk about epistemology and ontology. Actually, epistemology and ontology are rhetorics in a way. It basically explains something, but these things are not used in other ways. So it is something, epistemology is the way you understand something, the reality, ontology. It can be explained in that way. But in an academic world, in a research, if you say that, yes, there are differences, there are something constructed already, so people would understand these things from different perspective, that may be the subjective. Likewise, if you say it, that is also there. But when we use two words, epistemology and ontology, all those things are summarized into these two words. So that is why it is a rhetoric. So it has a decoration. With one word, many things can be brought into discourse. So that is why discourse analysis is more important. When we hear such a word, since many things are there in these two words, if you enter into a discourse analysis, you hear, you see these words, this, like for example, ontology and epistemology, or any other word in the uh, um, business world, maybe the bottom line, another rhetoric. So if you do not know the rhetorical meaning of this thing, you will not be able to get the reality or the depth into this discourse analysis. I hope it is clear. Diana sir, do you want
Yeah. When
the
you say
importance of
discourse,
rhetoric
yeah,
is like
if I'm
much more,
talking
you
these
can add. Yeah,
four steps together,
yeah,
uh, what normally people do is when there is a particular discourse, මම සිංහල භාෂාවෙන් කියනවා නම් ඒක මවල පෙන්වන්න උත්සාහ කරනවා. So they, we call it window dressing. නැති ඒ කියන්නේ අපි සමාජයේ අපි දන්න දේ ඒ විදියටයි කියලා පෙන්වන්න උත්සාහ කරනවා. එක එක කතා සැරසිලි. So thereby the reality is not that. So thereby to find out the reality, what we have to do is all these pictures, all these surrounding data should be analyzed in a broader way. Otherwise, the picture what we get is narrow. For example, if you just analyze, if you are trying to study the integrated reporting, sustainability reporting, or whatever the financial accounting matters, just by looking at annual reports, if you try to make conclusion, I think your finding is not line with anti-realism epistemology and constructionist ontology. So thereby, what here discourse analysis is be careful of on those window dressing. So thereby, you need to look at the data with open mind. Otherwise, your conclusion may be traditional, may be line with the existing knowledge. There won't be any new idea generations if you focus discourses as it is. Now, suppose certain people, now even in the country's political situation, if you look at that, now the government, the political party, those who govern the country is trying to prove that they are doing well. So there are different matters, different stories, different data, different speeches, different opinions are really presented to the public just to convince that they are doing well. So all these are, I think, subject to the for example, language constructivism and discourse is a form of action, and so all those are really what I want to communicate is they are just trying to show a picture which is different from reality, but in line with the general expectation. So always when there are discourses, people tend to powerful people. Of course, we know that discourse is a form of action. By using discourses, certain people will get power. Those powerful people will create such environment, such picture. Powerless people, of course, cannot do anything. They are innocent. They can't. They are not in a position to. Their voice is very weak. So thereby, they are not in a position to express the reality. They are really innocent, and they are voiceless. So thereby, when you are trying to analyze any discourse under qualitative research, so you need to understand what is appeared, what is appearance. The appearance is not the reality. So you have to investigate, you have to analyze, you have to look at it from different perspective. That is what discourse analysis communicate to you. Anything you want to add to just to elaborate this concept?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's very important. Like, so we highlighted the importance of the rhetorics in discourse analysis. So if you summarize it, the rhetoric, linguistic rhetorics in discourse analysis, actually rhetorics involved in discourse analysis. So in order to do, therefore, very good discourse analysis, you must be aware of the depth and the diversity of these rhetorics. And again, these linguistic rhetorics in one discourse may be different from another discourse. So the rhetorics used in among managers or in companies may be different from discourses in politics. Even within the corporation, discourses among top managers may be different from other levels of employees. So likewise, you have to understand that there is a diversity in rhetorics, but the rhetorics for one discourse is more or less common. You have to be aware of this thing. You have to have your interpretation of these rhetorics. And uncovering interpretative report here means basically, so it deals with this uh, discourse analysis, so and connected to the rhetorics as well. So this, how do we uncover the things embedded in rhetorics? So to great extent through interpretativism, you need to interpret. So how do you interpret? Not on imagination, but with the knowledge to discourse. Therefore you need to read them. Hmm? You need to look at all those reports, so discussions, and when you engage with these things, you would be able to. So that is the reason why we ask you to read at least several research papers before finalizing your research topic. If you don't do and think of jumping to a research topic, actually you would be in real trouble. And we also would be in trouble as supervisors. We would not be able to guide you because you do not know the basic rhetorics and linguistics, language use in a research paper. So then you can't identify what the real research question is, issue is. Simply you have a topic, relationship between that and this is this. So please mind that already you may have finalized your topics, but when you carry out research, it is not something doing like an assignment or writing a report. It is totally different. If you want to write an essay or a report, of course what you want is a topic title, but it is not the case. So maybe due to many reasons, again I can explain this epistemology. So where you may have, even though we very try hard to explain you that research report is something like this, but you guys may perceive, understand that no, ඔය සර්ලා මොනවා කිව්වත්, so අපි report එක දුන්නාම ඉවරයි. So it is something like writing a report. That means, so you have perceived in a different way. So since you have perceived epistemologically in a different way, you react accordingly. So you are like very objective in that way, but that is not what we explain. Therefore you have to understand what we explain. You have to perceive what we have explained through rhetorics and the meaning of linguistic of research. Then the task would be easy. Otherwise always students struggle, especially towards the end. The early stage of research you may find easy. Okay, now producing facts. Discourse analysis are interested in the ways that allegedly factual knowledge is conveyed. So when we go for discourse analysis, so in a way, um, the factual knowledge can be conveyed through these discourses. So either that way or this. So finally, um, for example, if you think of any topic in business management, um, it would not be well established or constructed until and unless that is being highly accepted by key players within that particular subject area. Otherwise, that will not be constructed. Potter, 1991, studied the making of a television documentary. So this is one the research area, nothing to worry. But here, cancer, your money or your life. So very, even by looking at the title, of course, you may guess something what it talks about, but we do not know much. But of course, we do not know whether it talks about some actions, so the early actions of curing cancer, or spend by spending or thinking of your life. So whether you are going to trade off between your life and money. So with respect to cancer, because you know, now with the help of technology, some many things can be known in advance, especially in the area of cancer. Now, even like if you do a test, so test report might tell you that no, you don't have a cancer, right? So this is very old story, but I'm just telling you the recent situation. As of now, even if you do not have a cancer as of now. So big data analysis, especially what we call um, artificial intelligence with biometric information will tell you that based on the analysis of your DNA, there is a chance that you will have a particular cancer. You do something now. So there is a case, I don't know whether you have heard about this particular case, the case about Angelina Jolie, famous actress. So singer, I suppose, right? Angelina Jolie. So she did a particular test by that time, long time ago, about the cancer. The report said no, she did not have. But these artificial intelligence, this biometric information algorithm analysis told her that there is a 90% chance that you will have a breast cancer. So what she did a, kind of surgery in advance and to save her life. So anyway, so I just brought some additional things for you, not directly related to the research, but you can share it. So therefore, these discourse analysis, even that is also a different discourse. Even nowadays, medical practices, even you can do a research about nationalism of COVID and flow of money. So if you have not chosen a topic, you can think of that area immediately after COVID. All the nationalities, especially including small countries, India, even Sri Lanka does not have that much technology. Otherwise, Sri Lanka also would have come out with a vaccine. So since we do not have that much technology of producing a vaccine, we tried hard to come out with different type of syrup, right? Penny, yeah? So whatever. But all the countries are trying instead of just like it has become a real business now, right? Vaccination, nationalism, and the money making machines. So so analysis of discourses about post COVID vaccine, so would be a very good research, very good research. If anyone is interested, of course, me, Dayananda sir, so we are pretty much interested of supervising you if someone can think of such a research. So Dayananda sir, so do you want to add anything to that research idea? All right. Okay. Um, I think he is not busy. No, no, no. Okay. They use the following methods: looking for rhetorical detail, use of variation as a lever. In rhetorics or discourse analysis, these things are seen. Rhetorics and variations can be seen, and detail reading is important. You see, reading the detail, looking for statements of credibility. So this last point is also very, very important. So discourses should hold the credibility. You can't take gossips, in other words, right? Discourses should be authenticated and credible. The accountability should be held. So this one is an extension of the discourse analysis, what we call critical discourse analysis. So now you know about discourse analysis, you are aware of the discourse analysis, discourses analysis, and you know the aspects, elements to be um, considered in discourse analysis. So therefore, what is additional is critical. Critical means you look at this analysis from highly interpretative mode, interrogative mode. And you do not simply take discourses with the given rhetorics, given details, given explanations. You bring something from your own. That is what we call your own interpretation. So that is how it becomes a critical analysis. So language interpretation, context interpretation, ideological interpretation, and so many things. So likewise, you have to take, for example, the profit or the business, running businesses in Sri Lankan context would be totally different from running businesses in China. But apparently we can say that technology is being used, stakeholder engagement, teamwork, and all these things, right? But in critical discourses, if you critically analyze the discourses and go and see, oh my goodness, you may see totally different things. Even in the name of teamwork, and participatory management, only one person boss will take decisions in context like us. So in other places, yes, of course, you may see the teamwork. Hmm? You can see teamwork was introduced, especially maybe there in every places, but the prominence is seen in Japan. Um, Therefore, the discourses on teamwork in Japan and other countries would be different. So if you do that thing, that is a critical discourse analysis. So therefore, critical discourse analysis try to reveal meaning of phenomenon by asking why something seems to mean something different now to what it means 40 years ago. So time differences, context differences, why it is different now, how one discourse influences another, how discourse is constructed through academic or journal articles. So this is another area. If someone is interested, you can do a critical discourse analysis by referring to particular research papers on particular title, maybe IR, accounting, or financial management. You may choose the area or discipline and have these discourses uh, have been evolving through journal papers, research papers. Academically, in Sri Lankan context, we do not see such academic discourses. Academic discourses are called colloquium. We also have some colloquiums, but true sense, colloquiums are debates all the times. Particular topic is taken, we debate without having any personal grudges or personal emotional fights. For example, what is really meant by profit maximization? What is the role of corporation today? We can talk openly, but if I have something like attached to my emotions, if I believe in something, then I may try to argue on this thing. So that is not going to be a good discourse. So due to some other reason, you do not see such public discourses in Sri Lankan context. But discourses are seen in journal articles. Therefore, it is possible to do a research if someone is interested in how discourse makes certain activities possible, desirable, or inevitable. So discourses really cause, like earlier I explained you, as long as there are actions, discourses can be seen. So by the same way, it is causal. So discourses also influence actions. Hmm? Now you can take up a good example how discourses would take actions. So government wanted to sell Eastern Container Terminal to India. So lots of discourses took place and agitations also. So discourses among employees, discourses among politicians, discourses among Buddhist monks, discourses among other political activists. Likewise, discourses expanded to many. And finally, these discourses went into the parties or political aides within the government, right? Then government happened to withdraw it. So these discourses, what was the discourse? So selling national properties, public properties is a crime. It shouldn't be done. So that is dangerous to Sri Lankan economy. That discourse made to an action. Yes, not do not know whether it is temporary, but I'm just telling you how discourses. So in other discourse, I would like to mention nowadays there is another discourse about deforestation, right? Just cutting trees, so dozering trees, so just simply destroying environment, especially the trees, natural forest, and all these things for economic benefits, not for specific economic plans or comprehensive economic plans. Again, so those who have political connection and power and all those things try to grab lands, or likewise lots of discourses. We do not know what the reality is behind this thing, who are behind, whether politicians are behind this or that, but it has become a discourse now. So this discourse may lead to an action of stopping this, or if the government is more powerful and saying that no, we need to really clean all these forests, to put up factories and carry out some economic development activities, that is another discourse. So discourses for and against. So that particular discourse might lead to that action. We do not know. So therefore, you better think of these critical discourse analysis in a way little bit advanced stage of discourse analysis. So, but it is more flexible than conversation analysis because interpretation is there. In a conversation, you need to be very careful of the meaning of each and every word, sentence, and the dialogue of the talk. The growing in popularity. So now discourse analysis has a has an increased tendency in research, especially in qualitative research. Therefore, think of in doing some qualitative research by using discourse analysis. Anti-realist position leads to a criticism of being too abstract. Sometimes uh, it says like anti-realistic position, that is interpretativism, might be criticized on the ground that that would be too abstract. That means so you theorize and make it to be too little. So therefore, the reality may not be explained from broader perspective sometime. So if we go for this anti-realist um, epistemological perspective, the term itself, discourse analysis, may be too broad to be meaningful. Some people may argue that even though it would bring about the critical aspects of social phenomenon, constructed realities, but in a way it is too broad. As if you just take the two example, just I highlighted deforestation and the selling of public properties. Um, so they are good opportunities for discourse analysis, but would be very broad. Therefore, you have to limit it. If you can do a broad one, that's better. But again, when we do discourse analysis, some arguments, criticism is there that would be too broad. So overall understanding how language is used may be crucial to understanding the social world. So finally, what matters is the understanding the rhetorical linguistic with its proper meaning might help you to understand the world in a better way. So that is all about this discourse, what you call language analysis. So quickly, the last part is about the documentation as a source of data. You can ask any question if you have, and then sir, if you have any things to add, you can add. So you can summarize the importance basically this
No, it's okay. We can
yes.
continue.
All right. Okay, I hope it is clear to you, mainly conversation analysis and discourse analysis. And we highlighted the importance of discourse analysis, and discourse analysis goes to a next step called critical discourse analysis. When it comes to critical discourse analysis, you can handle bigger issues, bigger things, bigger epistemological, like constructed ideas. So we encourage students to think of these aspects and the relevance of analysis, and do a qualitative research as well. Even with one type of analysis, you can do a qualitative research, but you need to be aware of this thing, conversant of this thing. All right. So the last part, that is the documentation. I think, yeah, importance of the documentation was little bit highlighted by the analyst as well in so during our discussion. Finally, um, no matter how hard you carry out your analysis, how significant your work is, how important your research question issue, and how much time, money that you use in particular research, and how rigorous your analysis is, and how fantastic your findings are. If the evidence to support your work is not properly documented, not available in form of documents, and that so that it creates big issue why the reliability and the trustworthiness of the work is lost. So therefore, documentation is very important. That is why this documentation or the documents itself are considered to be as a source of data. Um, it could be at any point in time, it is visual, seen maybe physical forms or virtual form can be read. So when it is documented, right? Even if it is machine language, it could be converted, read, no problem, right? That is virtual or physical. Have not been produced specifically for the purpose of research. Sometimes, so you may not have been produced for the purpose of this particular research, and that is available somewhere else, but you used it for your research. You did not produce. There would be different types of research freely available somewhere else. You use it, are preserved so that they become available for analysis. So if it is kept in whatever the forms I just explain you, you can use it to measure the authenticity, and not only for the authenticity, but for future use as well. The same documentation can be used by another researcher to do another research or extension to the research that you carry out. And again, these things are relevant to the concerns of social research, like basically um, we call social researcher. So it does not mean that so we simply actually our management is a social science. That thing we have to understand. Otherwise, we try to distinguish commerce, management, businesses from other social sciences. No, it's wrong. Actually, business management is a social science where human, individual, and organizations involve behavior, so many things. So therefore, it is a development of social science. And quality of document. So these four areas, authenticity. So already, so we explained. So again, I emphasize and iterate on this thing. Authenticity, is it genuine? It should be genuine, cannot be fake, false. If you, that is what you got to be very careful when you share uh, others post in your Facebook, or when you comment on others post in the Facebook. Lots of posts in the Facebook are fake, not authenticated, sometimes very old, repeated, so many things. You get so many messages. So the authenticity is a question sometimes. So the documents can be easily now fabricated because with the help of technology. Got to be very careful. Even the documents can be made it to be exactly equivalent to the original document. So that is really dangerous. So you may have to go for forensic audits. So you may see, so lots of political mudslinging campaigns and character assassination things are happening in the Facebook. It's really bad. um, it shows your quality in a way. Credibility, is it free from errors and distortion? There may be genuine authenticated document, but you um, distort it little bit. Genuine document is there. You may not show everything. You hide some part of the report. Therefore, the credibility is lost. The recently published, like, so there are two commission reports. One is the report on political victimization. Lots of issues are there with that report, and another report is on Easter Sunday attack report. Right? It is an authenticated report now. Why? Commission did it. Commission released. Commission gave it to the president. So authenticity is there. No matter whether you agree on this or not, that is something else. The authenticity of the report is there, but credibility is questioned as of now. Why? So entire report has not been tabled. So do not know whether the entire report has been tabled in the parliament, because the Attorney General categorically said yesterday, no, I got only volume 1, volume 2 is missing. How come? So how can I proceed with, I mean, the legal actions having this? So now you understand the difference between credibility and authenticity. So distortion may be there. Sometimes you may tear off something. You may include some erroneous reports inside. So these things can happen. Then the representativeness, is the evidence typical of this kind. So it should be, this document must be relevant to the topic that you talk about. If you talk about corruption, yes, of course, document should be authenticated, credible reports from various investigation commissions, court cases. Likewise, they shouldn't be mere statements made by politicians, even in the parliament or maybe in the stages, because authenticity and the credibility is questioned. Okay? And if you talk about uh, management aspects, right? Documentation pertaining to um, management controls of an organization. So authenticated documents may be the board minutes and the approved budget reports and all the reports also given the time period, and it should be taken from all the responsibility centers and places. So if you do the analysis based on only the master budget or budget prepared by one section, that is not representative. Now you can understand the link and the relevance of the representativeness. The meaning, is it clear and comprehensible? So finally, document should provide meaningful and comprehensive idea. It should not have vague terms, contradictory terms. Sometimes the document in one place, it says something, in another place, so something totally contradict what is mentioned there. So maybe about the number, about the wordings, meanings. So it could be many things. It should be very clear. In a way, it should be unambiguous. Documents available for study, even personal documents can be used, but you need to understand the limitations and all these things. So it's all right, you can use it. Official state documents, authenticity is there. Here you need to verify the authenticity, credibility. So sometimes you can hold high credibility and high authenticity even though that's a personal document. So the responsibility may have been accepted by that particular person, then it is all right. Even speeches made by individuals would be taken. Official company documents, you know, lots of things, reports, publicly available information, internal documents. So in computerized environment, thousands and one documents can be generated. Mass media outputs, yes, you can use it, because we believe that, of course, there are lots of problems about the mass media in countries like us, but we we assume that they hold the responsibility of what they say. There are cases which really contradicts, that is some, so that is something else. But virtual documents also, we can use lots of virtual documents are really available. So as I just told you, danger is there now with the so when we use virtual documents, make sure that that is authenticated and its credibility. And so these are the details of each types of documents. I think need not to go through in detail. um, just let me have a check, could be, yeah, sometimes personal documents sometimes can be used as a just uh, um, adjuncts to other methods such as interviews or participant observation. Like you interviewed, you observed something about directors, managers, employees. In the meantime, you take a documents or the reports prepared by the head of that particular department. So you can compare and match it, use, and perhaps trace the history of an organization. Personal documents pertaining to maybe personnels, individuals may have developed certain documents, history of the organization. And sometimes diaries also may be used as a method of data collection. Some diaries. So I do not know whether we maintain diaries as of now. In the past, in our time, we had a habit of maintaining diaries. We write everything in our diaries. Sometimes may not be important, all the rubbish are written. But if a diaries are maintained by someone who plays a key role in an organization or in the political arena or any other place, that diary can be used. So famous diary, Che diary, Che Guevara's diary contains lots of information about their revolution, struggle against Batista, and how they established the uh, um, the political regime in Cuba. So the diary, that particular diary, is not only being used in Cuba, the all over the world, that is being used as a key document, personal document to develop lots of books, diary. So likewise, you can take diaries of politicians, diaries of businessmen, individuals, key character, the figures, and use it for your research. No problem. Official state documents, of course, it is pretty much obvious. Authenticity is there. You think of what state documents are going to be used. So commonly used state document is central bank report. We use it. Then official company documents. So that's why I just told you, nowadays there is no limit, public domain and not in the public domain. So there could be many, especially when it comes to non-public domain. Thousands and one, I can say millions and one reports can be generated. So therefore, it does not mean that you are going to access all documents. You better choose what documents are related to your information. For example, many talks about the board governance. I came across instances where students come out with topics to do a research about board governance and performance. So when I ask questions why and how board governance relate to performance, many are unanswerable. um, that's what, so we simply jump to the topic. But if you think of the board governance, you can think of first documentation. So actually what's happening within board governance, what are the how board minutes are maintained, who creates board minutes, and whether you can access, so how often they are prepared, how they are communicated, how often they are being used for decision making, how often they are communicated to managers. Likewise, if you can do these kind of analysis through documents involved with board of directors, so that would be a kind of very good qualitative research study rather than just simply finding that particular relation. So but you can find relationship, no problem. It does not mean that you can't, but you need to justify and articulate why and how, why governance is important to performance, and how you are going to measure performance, how are you going to measure the board governance. So as long as you do that, that is possible. But from documentation perspective, the using documentation as a source, and for data analysis purposes, you can think of all those documents revolving around board of directors would be another. That of course would be a separate research. Mass media outputs and all these things, of course, here it is like you do not have records, you need to get it from several stations, or maybe repositories of data repositories or databases. Otherwise you don't have that much access. No one would maintain records of all the mass media outputs. It depends on your purpose. Virtual outputs, of course everyone is aware of this thing, again many. And reality of documents. So now look at this. Documents exist in their own right. So that means, so document itself contained something specific. So therefore its own right means, so it is pertaining to that, like it talks about that particular aspect on. We should examine them in terms of their context and intended leadership. Like this fact was earlier also highlighted. The document, the content, meaning, relevance of document depends on its context and the purpose for which it was used. And it should not be a black and white document or hard and fast rule that this document should contain this. If this contains, it means this. No, you can't do this in qualitative research. This means that documents are linked to other documents. That means interconnectedness of documents can be seen. You need to explore, you need to understand it. And researchers are usually more interested in the content of document, but must keep the document's original purpose in mind. So that is what I just mentioned. So when we do research, our mind, our actions quickly go to the content, what it contains, what is said, in general meaning, without, like, it is very hard for us to touch the original purpose of that particular document. If you do not know, if you do not question about the original purpose, your research would produce something um, undesirable, because there could be some authenticated, validated documents prepared for the, especially for a particular purpose of doing something. So nowadays, criticism about those commission reports, so it contains certain things, especially political victimization report. The commission says, with respect to accused, there are so many cases. The commission says all those cases of corruption charges and so many things should be withdrawn by the Attorney General. So those who brought these facts to light and took up legal action, so provided evidence to Attorney General to proceed the cases, because the cases have been proceeded for almost 4 years, should be accused, punished, taken legal action. So something like, so then you can take up these kind of the document and do a research on the original purpose of the document versus the content versus the purpose. That's also qualitative research, if someone likes. Then the analytical methods for interpreting documents, so qualitative content analysis, or even if you want, you can go for quantitative. And semiotics. Semiotics, I explained a little bit, that is symbols, the signs in organizations. So nothing is written in words, all those things are in symbols. So how symbols works? You can do a research among university students, how they react and interact and with semiotic symbols seen in the university, at the canteen, library, lecture theater, or when you carry out do examination. So lots of semiotic analysis can be seen. Um, the other one is when it comes to this interpreting document. um, Hermeneutics means basically, in a documents, we do not, the user may not know the hermeneutic